If you had asked me years ago what pain felt like, I would have said it was hunger, the kind that twists your stomach and makes you too weak to stand. I would have said it was sleeping on a cold orphanage floor, listening to the wind howl through broken windows. But I was wrong. Pain is much more than hunger. Pain is waking up every day knowing you are unwanted. Pain is knowing that no matter how hard you try, you will always be nothing to the people who hold power over you. I learned this the hard way when I was taken in by the Orphan family. That night, I knelt on the freezing marble floor, scrubbing the tiles with shaking hands. My fingers were raw, cracked from too much detergent. But I knew better than to stop. The stain wasn't coming out, and fear clawed at my throat. Madame Celeste towered over me, her sharp heels clicking against the floor. "You filthy orphan!" she spat, and before I could move, her hand struck my face. My head snapped to the side, a sharp sting blooming across my cheek. I gasped, but I didn't cry. Crying only made things worse. Juliet, her 18-year-old daughter, smirked from where she sat, scrolling through her phone. "Mother, she's so slow. I don't know why we keep her." Madame Celeste sighed dramatically. "Because she has nowhere else to go. Without us, she'd be rotting on the streets." Rotting. That was what they thought of me. I clenched my teeth and kept scrubbing, even as my vision blurred. I had no family, no friends, just this house, this life, and their cruelty. "You're sleeping outside tonight if that floor isn't spotless in 10 minutes," Celeste said coldly before turning away. Outside, thunder rumbled. Rain lashed against the windows. I swallowed hard, scrubbing faster. It wouldn't be the first time they threw me out into the storm, but I prayed it would be the last. I had been 12 when I first met Madame Celeste. The orphanage had shut down, and I was left with nothing but a worn-out dress and an empty stomach. I wandered the streets, begging for food, until one day, she found me near a bakery. She was beautiful, with elegant clothes and a smile that seemed kind. "You poor child," she had said, tilting my chin up with a manicured finger. "Would you like to come home with me? I'll take care of you." In my foolishness, I believed her. The first night at the Lawrence mansion was magical. I had a warm meal, a bath, and fresh clothes. I thought I had finally found a home. But by the second day, reality set in. "You will wake up before dawn," Celeste had told me. "You will cook, clean, and do whatever we ask of you. If you disobey, you will go hungry." I had nodded, too grateful to argue. It didn't take long to realize I was not a daughter to them. I was a servant. No, a slave. I slept in the basement, where the air was damp, and the darkness stretched for hours. My hands bled from scrubbing floors. My stomach ached from missed meals. But the worst part? The loneliness. There was no one to talk to. No one to care if I was hurting. Only them, and they thrived on my suffering. Time passed, but nothing changed. Juliet and her brother Damien treated me like I was less than human. Damien, who was 20, never spoke to me directly. He simply issued orders as if I were an object. "Make my bed, bring me water, stay out of my sight." Juliet was worse. She enjoyed humiliating me. One evening, she called me into her room, a cruel smile on her lips. "I need you to clean up," she said, pointing to the mess she had made. Clothes, shoes, and makeup were scattered everywhere. I swallowed my exhaustion and bent down to pick up her dress. Just as I reached for it, she poured her drink over my head. "Oops," she giggled. "You should be more careful, Adeline." I sat there, drenched, my body stiff with shock. I wanted to scream, to fight back. But I knew better. Instead, I cleaned in silence while she laughed. That night, I lay on my thin mattress in the basement, the cold biting through my wet clothes. My chest ached with something deeper than sadness. I wanted to disappear. One day, I made a mistake. It was a small mistake, one that shouldn't have mattered. I burned the toast. Madame Celeste was furious. "You ungrateful wretch!" she screamed, grabbing my wrist so tightly that I winced. "We took you in. We gave you everything. And this is how you repay us?" She slapped me. Once. Twice. The room spun. But that night, something inside me changed, as I lay on the cold floor. Staring up at the cracks in the ceiling, I whispered to myself, "I am not nothing. I am not worthless. I will get out of here." I planned my escape for weeks. Every night, I saved scraps of food. Every morning, I mapped out my way to the city. I was careful, cautious. But they found out. The night I tried to leave, Damien caught me at the front door. His face twisted in anger. "Where do you think you're going, you filthy little rat?" He dragged me back inside. I fought. For the first time, I fought. I kicked, scratched, screamed. But I was no match for him. Madame Celeste and Juliet watched as he threw me to the floor. "You thought you could leave us?" Celeste laughed. "You owe us your life." That night, they locked me in the basement. No food. No light. No hope. Days passed. I grew weaker. When they finally let me out, I was barely breathing. Madame Celeste made a show of taking me to the hospital, pretending to be a loving guardian. She told the doctors I had fallen down the stairs. No one questioned her. No one looked at me and saw the truth. In the end, I never got justice. They never faced punishment. I left the Loran mansion at 18, not because I escaped, but because they no longer needed me. I was too old, too broken. They replaced me with another girl, a younger, more desperate orphan. And so the cycle continued. I walked away from that house with nothing but scars and silent screams. I write this now, not for sympathy, but for truth. People like Madame Celeste exist. People like Juliet and Damien exist. And girls like me, we are forgotten. But I refuse to be silent. I refuse to let my story be erased. Because somewhere out there, another girl is scrubbing a floor with trembling hands. And maybe, just maybe, she will read this and know she is not alone.